Hello, Black America.
Donald Trump wants to expand qualified immunity for police officers. So under the guise of, increasing law and order. Why? Can you explain to me why police officers need more immunity from potential? They already have qualified immunity, which is why it's very difficult to prosecute a police officer. Um, why would they need that expanded?
That is one of the more frightening things as a black man in America. Um, when you see the series of events that have gone on in America from the last, well, it's been going on since forever, from Emmett Till and that sort of thing, to now you've got obviously George Floyd, Mike Brown. The one that touches my heart is Tamir Rice.
Yes. Sonia Massey, Breonna Taylor.
We can call their names. We could spend the rest of this show calling their names and not reach them all.
Yep.
If we could remember them all and say them all, we could spend the rest of our time on this show today and not say all the names of the people. And the presiding narrative becomes, oh, they should have complied, and there's no excuse.
It's always that.
There's no excuse for making the police judge, jury, and executioner without any culpability at all.
No
I
due
think
process.
I think it was Chris Rock that said there's some professions where you just can't afford to have bad apples. You can't.
Yeah.
Like a pilot. It's like you can't have a pilot that's having a bad day and decides to just get up there and fly. No, you cannot do that because they have life and death in their hands. And police officers, you give them this weapon on the side of their body that they can use, but they can use it. They should have some sort of responsibility attached with it. Mm-hmm. With great power there's supposed to be responsibility associated with that. To whom much is given, much is required.
Absolutely.
And you give these people the power to take somebody's life, literally, and yet you're not calling them to any sort of accountability, any sort of responsibility as far as that's concerned.
But do they know? I wonder how many police officers know that their profession as a whole originated from catching slaves.
In the early American colonies, policing was neither centralized nor standardized. Groups of night watchmen and patrols often worked under a hodgepodge of different systems depending on their geographical locations. Their aims were fairly similar, as property owners and private companies contracted people for hire as protection from thieves and ne'er-do-wells. In a bitterly ironic twist, colonial settlers were especially paranoid that nearby displaced indigenous peoples might encroach on their settlements. Between the 1630s and 1700, Boston, New York, and Philadelphia implemented night watch systems that mostly relied on volunteers, though some were paid. These people would sign up for dates and times to patrol, often sent to make sure locals were neither gambling nor engaging in sex work-related activities. This system was extremely inefficient, as night watch also served as punishment for some people, tempting volunteers to participate in the vices they were meant to watch. Frequently, these night watchmen spent their shifts getting drunk and falling asleep while on duty. Southern colonies focused on protecting other forms of property. Priorities rested on the maintenance of human chattel, enslaved Africans upholding colonial economies. The first American slave patrols were formed in the first decade of the 18th century in the Carolinas. These groups of 3 to 6 patrolmen often traveled on horseback, carrying whips, ropes, and guns. Enslavement led to the enactment of slave codes that patrols enforced. Night watches in the northern colonies had similar duties. Though chattel enslavement was less practiced there, these watches were still tasked with controlling enslaved populations. Connecticut and New York even passed slave laws that served the same function. These laws criminalized attempts at escape and rebellions of the enslaved against their enslavers.
They all know. They have to.
So if you know that it originated from catching slaves, 2 people are going to sign up for that job and use that information in 2 different ways. One is, okay, cool, that's what it was, but it's different now. And another person is like, well, my great-great-grandfather was, I remember the plantation. I remember the stories. I still see the pictures. I still see it. And we're only one generation removed, potentially no generation removed from police officers that have been some of the most wicked police officers in some of these small towns. I remember my father told me about his friend. He said that he pulled up in a town and he's in a Mercedes. So, black guy in a Mercedes. Guy pulls him over and, he's a proud black man. So he got his papers, he owns his car, he makes his money. And so it's kind of like a sheriff or deputy, something, not a cop. So when you're dealing with a sheriff or deputy or something and that's who's pulling you over, say a prayer. So they asked him for his papers. He gave him his papers. This guy asked him to step out the car. He said, what am I getting out the car for? He said, just step out the car, please. He said, I'm not getting out the car. He reached through the window and grabbed him out the car.
Right.
And, how many times we've already seen it on camera, which is why we look at a global audience and call a global audience to witness the events that have happened and that will happen, because that instance, that encounter is what I see happening again. I see it happening, but not in small towns anymore. Because if you don't have any threat of prosecution, we already know there are bad cops out here. We have family that are cops. We love our cops. We love our law enforcement. We wouldn't be safe without them.
Right.
But it would be disingenuous and an outright lie to say that we don't have people with anger problems, emotional problems, hate, racial bias.
Let me tell you something here. So, all right. I'm in 7th grade, right? I got out. My parents took me out of public schools because I was starting to get in a little trouble.
Yeah.
And they moved me to a private Christian school. 7th grade. There's only like 8 people in the class. So, but in a lot of ways, they were all people that had trouble adjusting in the public school system for whatever reason. So we're all in the Christian school. We get into this, we had this big field behind the school where we'd go and play. And I got into it one day with this little guy. We were all little, I guess, in 7th grade. Not me, but we got into it.
Been the same size since you was in.
I really.
That's how you're making
really
it
was.
sound.
I actually was, but not much difference. But anyway, we get into it, and he the thing is, he gets into go back to Africa.
Pulled that.
I'm from New Orleans. I've never been to Africa. I don't know. At this point in my life, I have no concept of what Africa is. Go back to Africa, you jungle bunny, something to that effect. I 2, 3, 5-pieced him. I don't know what it was, but he got his comeuppance. Fast forward 10, 12 years later, this guy's a cop.
Never failed.
He's a cop. He's a
Never
local
failed.
police officer in town.
It's always the ones who got chipped up in school. It's always the ones that I'm gonna get y'all one day. They in their bedrooms punching their fists.
Oh my goodness!
Can't beat nobody.
And you know what?
Joining the police academy.
And that's just it. There's so many frightened. These are guys that got beat up, a lot of them.
Absolutely.
And I'm not casting
we can attest to that.
A blanket.
I guarantee everyone watching knows someone from their school that you can list the guy in the chat and let us know. Man, every town, every school has people who were the punks who just 10 years later, they're the cops.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is. It's the guys that are insecure.
Yep.
Maybe they didn't fare so well with the ladies, or maybe they got beat up a lot. And now you put this uniform on, you get this training with this weapon, and you have power.
Yep.
And you can tell
People
sometimes
gotta
when
listen to you.
when they come up to the car, or wherever they meet you.
Usually
you
5'4".
But they come with this arrogance. You know, so often you see them escalate rather than de-escalate.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. That's something that we really ought to be more cognizant of and more thoughtful about, is when you're putting these people in these positions, there needs to be some sort of accountability, some sort of responsibility.
There won't be. It's over.
I've heard us say
it's gone left.
We need
the
to
brakes have got off the brakes have broken off the train.
Absolutely.
What was the saying? What?
We're off the rails.
Yes, that's it. Everything you were hoping that you say, we really need to get these guys some training and some anger management, and no, we've gone left now.
Right.
Now there's going to be total immunity
For the president and for the police.
the president and the police. So you're talking about millions of police, let's call it thousands of police officers that have not been healed from their life issues, that are out here exercising power and have no threat of repercussion.
Absolutely.
Cannot be held accountable. This is going to be anarchy.
It's going to be a bad. I don't even want to put it out there, but when you keep stomping on somebody, at some point it explodes.
Yeah.
You can't just keep. Sooner or later that energy is going to come out somewhere.
And what we really got to consider is, you speak about it a lot, hint at it, especially concerning some of the prophecies that we discussed, is a civil war, and what that looks like, and what it could put. See, all cops aren't going to go for it,
Right?
There's some phenomenal cops that are about to draw the line in the sand.
Yes.
There are some people within the immigration system that are about to draw the line in the sand.
And the military.
In the military that are about to draw that line. There are...
That's what a civil war looks like, though.
Correct.
Brother against brother, right?
Correct.
Listen, if you think that this is going to be like some sort of race war where it's the black folks against the white folks, no, it's gonna be more
good side.
It's good and evil.
Evil side.
Absolutely.
And both.
And you got to choose.
And you're gonna have to choose.
Right.
And you reneged. America reneged. You remember? America literally said, "You want to be free. You want liberty. You want to be whoever you want to be. You want to serve whatever God you want to serve. Come to America." They was like Suge Knight. Remember? You tired of the executive producer,
being
all in the videos, all on the songs? Come to death row. That's how they advertised America.
Not to us.
They oppressing you out there in those countries.
They didn't. Hey, we didn't get that.
No, we didn't. We didn't get it.
You.
we didn't get it.
Come on.
Yeah, everybody but us got that welcome wagon. Come over here, y'all. Y'all gonna be good here. And they decide, we tired of that. What we advertised our country as, liberty, justice for all, we're tired of that. Because liberty looks fine as long as the people look like the lawmakers. What's about to happen now is the lawmakers are going to make laws for the people who look like them first, and your liberty is going to be based on if you look like them, if you're the same sex as them, women, if you are the same color as them, the same race as them, if you have the same economic status as them, you're going to be fine.
Right.
If you have the same alliances, the same moral values as them, you'll be fine. But the rest of us, those laws are going to start to look like they're not for us. Or they are for us, maybe to check us, to control us, but this is my worry. Yeah. These are some of the worries we have here, and you no longer have any checks and balances. Now they have the House. They got the Senate on election night.
Absolutely.
They have the majority in the Supreme Court.
And they have immunity for the president.
And they have immunity for the president. Yeah. There is no checks and balances in the MAGA government.
It's gonna be this is going to be the most interesting 4 years of any of our lives. It's, I don't know. I don't want to put any predictions out there. I don't want to.
I do.
I'm gonna leave that to you. But I'm not gonna front. I've been thinking that, and this is a real serious thought for a moment. And I don't know what it looks like, but I remember vividly having the thought prior to the election, what if somehow this serves God's purpose? And I don't know what that purpose is. Mm-hmm. But I know personally, I've had the thought, what if this guy wins and it's actually what God wants? Because, it's a thought that I had. It's almost like a premonition that I had. You guys, you remember Rodney King, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Of course.
Years ago today, her father, Rodney King, was beaten by police on this Lakeview Terrace street. His skull fractured, bones and teeth broken. He was left with permanent brain damage.
A part of him died that night. Even though he died 9 years ago, a huge part of him died that night.
The acquittal of 4 white police officers led to protests and riots. And although she was just a little girl at the time, Laura King has made it her life mission to keep her father's legacy alive.
Here it is again, 30 years, and where are we? We're still in the same state of mind. People are still getting slaughtered for the color of their skin, not because of who they are.
Celebrating her father's life with a passionate plea for change and a strong message of hope.
I'm honored to look around the room and see the different shades, not just African American, not just white, not just Asian, actually everybody, because we're all brothers and sisters. If we close our eyes, we all are the same color.
I know y'all a little younger than me, so I wanted to make sure I had the time reference.
Especially with these topics we discussing, of course.
So I remember when Rodney King happened, and this was obviously all pre-cell phone cameras, but they caught this on camera, the police whooping his behind, right? And in my mind, it was obvious. We've got it on camera. This is a new phenomenon. We see it. What we've known has been going on in our community for years. Now we see it. It's been captured on camera. Great. Mm-hmm. These guys are going to get their justice, and this is going to move us forward as a people. And then after we got the whole dramatic thing about moving the trial to Semi Valley rather than in Los Angeles, those men, and I had the thought at that time, what if they actually
get off?
They get off. And it was just a momentary thought that went over my body, but it was just prior to, and then when they said they were not guilty, I was like, and I feel a little bit
on camera.
Absolutely. I feel like we're having that kind of moment again, where it's just
you're not going to be able to. You're not going to on camera. We're having those moments.
The revolution is being televised
before our eyes.
Hello, Black America.